Thank you, Allison and Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation staff for the Outstanding Achievement Award in Historic Preservation in the Career Achievement category. I am so proud and honored to receive this award from you. Before I go any further, I do want to acknowledge that my residence and former workplace while Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer are on land inhabited from time immemorial by Coast Salish speaking people. The Squaxin Island tribe inhabited villages in this area that was also frequented by the Nisqually, Chehalis, and other tribes. My family, friends, and neighbors are direct beneficiaries of their stewardship of their culture and of our land, air, and water. I also congratulate and thank the other persons and organizations for receiving a SHPO award this year, as well as recipients in previous years. I am honored to receive this award along with those of you who have excelled in your work to save, preserve, and restore historic places in Washington. In regard to my own experience, it was 36 years ago that I first walked into what was then the Office of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, at that time located in the McCleary Mansion here in Olympia. I have to thank David Hanson, who was then Deputy SHPO, and Jake Thomas, then SHPO, for hiring me to work for the agency. While I had written nominations of properties to the National Register of Historic Places and completed state historic property inventory forms while in college and working in both Michigan and Ohio, coming to work for a state agency, and specifically a state historic preservation office, was a new experience. I soon learned that a state historic preservation office is about much more than doing survey work and listing properties in the National Register. Rather, it is a small but effective agency responsible for administering federal and state laws, regulations, and policies that advance the recognition and preservation of places representing the nation's heritage. An important work, in my opinion. In accepting this award, I can't help but look back and think of all the persons and organizations I have had the pleasure of working with. I want to recognize and thank cultural resource staff at federal and state agencies, certified local government staff and local Historic Preservation Commission members, tribal historic preservation officers, cultural resource consultants, property owners, Main Street managers, and the many members of the public who step forward to advocate for historic preservation as defining the future for their communities. And I would be remiss in not mentioning in the private nonprofit world, including museums and historical societies, plus the critical work of preservation advocacy organizations such as Historic Seattle, Historic Tacoma, and Spokane Preservation Advocates. Also, Dakamomo Wiwa for mid-century modern preservation advocacy, and of course, Chris Moore and his amazing staff at the statewide Washington Trust for Historic Preservation. Please know that I speak directly to all of you in saying how much you have enriched my work while at DAP. And in accepting this award, I must recognize and thank my colleagues at DAP, both past and present. 201, these individuals are brilliant, motivated, articulate, and creative persons who are passionate about their work. As much as I would like to, I cannot begin to take the time to name all of you who I have had the pleasure to work with, but I do acknowledge and thank you all as well for your public service in protecting cultural resources. That said, I want to specifically recognize Rob Whitlam, who has worked as state archaeologist at DAP since well before I began work there in 1985 and continues to this day as an institution in the field of archaeology. I also wanted to give special thanks to all of my colleagues in the Built Environment Unit, both past and present, and I will mention those who I most recently worked with before retiring, those being Holly Borth, Cam Gant, Michael Hauser, and Nicholas Van. This is an unmatched creative team of hard workers, passionate preservationists, and good friends. I also want to turn to the state historic preservation officers who I had the pleasure and privilege to serve during my career at DAP. As mentioned previously, Jake Thomas served as SHPO when I first arrived there in the 1980s, followed by Mary Thompson in the 1990s, and then David Hanson as interim SHPO, serving until Allison Brooks arrived in 1999. Each have been dedicated and lifelong preservationists, as well as thoughtful and effective leaders. Finally, Allison, thank you so much for this award. This is truly the highlight of my career and means so much to me. While I honestly do not see my work as being an outstanding achievement, I do sincerely appreciate this recognition of my years at DAP and my service to the citizens of Washington, as well as my commitment to advancing historic preservation as a profession and movement. And Allison, working for you these past 20 plus years has been a huge reward for me. Witnessing firsthand your leadership that has made such a difference in our state for DAP and for the preservation movement, not only in Washington, but also for tribes and the nation. Again, many thanks, Allison, and to my colleagues at DAP for this award and for such a rich experience in a profession for which I deeply care. Thank you.